So I can only speak for myself and go off of my own experiences and my own beliefs and thoughts and opinions. But I do think that over the past year, I have figured some things out that I think are very apropos for the times we are living in right now, and I think could help somebody. So whoever stumbles upon this video, I just wanted to offer something to consider, and hopefully it helps someone out there. I'm a big believer in not putting all of your eggs into one basket, because no matter how secure you think your job is, and no matter how good you are at your job, shit can go bad and it can go wrong very, very, very quickly. You need to kind of prepare for a rainy day. I'd say about a year ago, I think it was around the summer of 2019, I started to look into different ways of earning supplemental income. That would be any kind of side gig or side job you could do, whether that be contract work or something you want to do part-time, to add on to your main source of income. So for me, it was my 9-to-5 office job. And nowadays with the internet, it is so simple. You could do it from the comfort of your own home, and it could be during your off hours when you have some time after work or when you don't have plans with friends. Big disclaimer though, do your research. Once you find a company that seems to interest you, look up reviews, look up testimonials, do the research you need to do before you decide whether you want to work with them or not. There's a lot of options out there, but you want to find the legitimate ones. So like I said, this has been going on for a year now. I've been looking at different options out there since last summer. Since then, I have found 2 companies that I work with, and they do very different things. So it would be best to kind of split them in their own separate videos. Today's video, you could say it's more broadly about teaching English as a second language to foreign students. The company I started working with is called VIPKID. I can only go off of my experience working with VIPKID. I can't speak generally for all of the websites that offer teaching positions, but I will have in the description box a list of the ones that I have found that are not only the most popular, but legitimate. A lot of the things I will mention in this video will apply to any other company. I've been a contractor on VIPKID's platform for about 8 months now. So the contracts are on a 6-month basis. So I'm into my second contract. I'll quickly go over the requirements just so that if it is something that sounds like it would interest you, you at least know if you qualify or not. So the biggest one and the major one is that you need to be a native English speaker, which I think goes without saying, because in order to teach English, you need to have mastered it yourself. So as long as it is your mother tongue, or you can speak it at such an advanced level that it would be as if you were a native English speaker, you're good to go. The second thing, you have to be eligible to work in North America. So you'd have to be able to work in the US or Canada. They don't hire outside of the US or Canada. I think it's because they specifically require or prefer a North American English accent. The third thing, which might separate VIPKID from other companies, it really depends. For them specifically, they do require a bachelor's degree. If you have a bachelor's degree in anything, it doesn't have to be education, it could really be anything. They just want to see that you've gone through higher education. And the last thing that I have found is that you need to have at least 2 years experience working with kids. It doesn't have to mean that you have taught children in a formal educational setting. It could really be that you have babysitting experience, that you were a camp counselor, anything that will show that you know how to deal with kids. It could be kids of all ages, and they just want to see that you have experience working with them. As far as my experience working with them, there are definitely pros and cons, as with almost any job out there. With VIPKID, as well as most of the other platforms I have found for online teaching, you are teaching students in Asia, primarily China. So there's a big time difference. I live in an Eastern Standard Time zone. I am 12 hours behind the time it is in China. And if we're in daylight savings time, it's actually a 13-hour difference because China does not practice daylight savings time. So I actually lose an hour of teaching time that I would otherwise have the rest of the year. 9 a.m. here is 9 p.m. in China, or 6 a.m. here is 6 p.m. there. So you have to take that into account because these kids are also in regular school. They're in school during the day. So there are chunks of our days in both countries that are kind of no-go zones where you won't really find anyone to teach because you can't have a child in regular class taking an online class at the same time during the day. There are specific slots of the day that you can teach and open up, and they kind of tell you which slots are like peak or hot time slots and which are probably not going to get booked. So if you're someone who was expecting to do this after work in the evening, there's only a few days a week where you could do that. Every other weekday, you most likely will not get booked because the kids are not available. That's something that hadn't really clicked for me until I was already pretty deep into the process because I was thinking, oh, I'll just do this after work. You have to be a morning person to be able to actually take full advantage. I have a different perspective to offer than a lot of the other videos I've seen where it's either people who have managed to make this their main source of income or they're stay-at-home moms, so they kind of fit the teaching into their schedule when their kids are otherwise occupied. There's also people who already work from home, so they're able to fit the teaching in that way, and I'm not able to fill up as many slots as someone who does this as their full-time thing. It became challenging, to say the least, but I did want to give it a go. The available teaching time slots really depend on what time zone you're in and where you live, so I'm not going to get into the specifics, but basically, generally, the rule of thumb is that from Monday to Thursday, you will only be able to teach in the mornings because that is the evening for the students, so it's after school. On Fridays and Saturdays, you do have the option of working in the evening into like the early hours of the morning. I'm talking like 3, 4, 5 a.m. You could pull an all-nighter if you want. I wouldn't suggest it, but if you really need the cash, you have that option on Fridays and Saturdays. However, Sunday night is going into their Monday morning, so that would not work. It really needs to be something that works with your lifestyle and other commitments you have. As for how much money you'd be making, it really depends on the company you work with. It's going to be different for VIPKID than it would be for another company. You would be booking 25-minute classes, so each time slot would be for a 25-minute class, and you get paid per class completed. The base pay that VIPKID offers is between $7 and $9 per 25-minute time slot. So you would be paid between $7 and $9 US per class. Now, if you're Canadian like me, you'd have to convert it to see how much you'd be making in Canadian, but they pay in USD. The specific rate you'll be offered will depend on your past experience, on your CV, and how well you do on the demo during the interview process. There's no exact science on how to figure out what your base pay is going to be. You really just have to go through the process and see what they offer you. But then there are also bonuses that are available. For the sake of this example, let's say you get $7, you would be getting $7 per 25-minute class. So let's say for a full hour, if you manage to book 2 classes in that hour, you worked the full hour, you'd be getting $14. Additionally, there is the option to get 2 bonus dollars per class. So the first dollar that's available to you is if you are on time. If you start class on time and you're not late, you get that extra dollar for each class that you started on time. So that would bump your rate up to $8. And then there's an additional dollar that you could get as a bonus for teaching a certain number of classes. So there's a certain threshold you have to meet. I can't remember if it's 45 classes. If you reach that minimum, then you automatically get an hour added to each of the classes for that month. So let's say for the given month, you earn the 2 extra dollars per class. That would mean that each class would have earned you $9 instead of $7 if you were at the base rate of $7. So if each class is earning you $9, then you'd be making $18 in that hour. So your rate would be 18 an hour. Hopefully that math made sense. I was never really good at teaching math. And they also have incentives sprinkled in throughout the month or throughout the quarter to kind of prompt their teachers to open up more time slots. So it really just depends. There are options to make more money, but you have to keep in mind that you are an independent contractor. So you have to save up some of your money for tax season. You're not deducting any of your taxes throughout the year. So at the end of the year, you have to declare all the money, and ideally you would have factored in the deductions and saved a certain amount for tax time. As an independent contractor, you do have the flexibility to control how much you earn, control how much money you make, but you do have to keep in mind that you will have to pay some of that at the end of the year. So do it responsibly. One other thing to mention is with VIPKID specifically, they do require you to have a kid-friendly educational background, which will require you to have a setup and to have something that's just friendly, you know, aesthetically pleasing to a child's eye. Honestly, for me, I found really cheap ways of doing it, and I got away with spending very little money on props or classroom setup. But that's just because I tend to be very creative, and I used what I had in the house, and I used a lot of 2D props that I just printed out. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, and any of the videos that show you these elaborate backgrounds and backdrops, just ignore it, but you can declare those as expenses when you declare your taxes. As far as the contracts go, to renew with them, you really don't even have to have taught any classes, theoretically. As long as you didn't go over their cancellation policy, there's a maximum amount of classes you can cancel. If you don't surpass that, they will automatically offer you to renew. I'm sure there's other ways to get fired, but you'd have to really do something bad. All they do is they send you the offer to renew, you sign your new contract, and it's as easy as that. So you could theoretically get through the interview process, get hired, and then not teach classes and keep renewing your contract just to have it on the back burner if ever you're laid off or if ever you have more time on your hands and you want to give it a go. So it really is kind of commitment free in a way. It's a very cool thing to just have on the side as an option for a rainy day. It's just something good to have in your back pocket for times like these or any other time, even when life is normal. The main goal I have and have always had with trying to find different streams of supplemental income, different side gigs I could start up, was basically to eventually be able to use those different avenues I have for making money to be able to stay at home when I have kids one day. Kind of like a stay-at-home mom, but still bring in money and contribute to the household. And I'm using these years to kind of build these different platforms up to a point where I could eventually leave my full-time gig and do this. That's why I have been so determined to find different ways of incorporating these side gigs into my main schedule, is in anticipation of building them up to the point where I can one day rely on them. And that's kind of a dream I have, and I don't know if it'll become a reality, but it's something I've been working towards. So in my mind, it was okay to sacrifice some of my social life in the short term to be able to build up a nest for myself to fall back on in the future. But that does not take away from how fun it is to teach these kids. It's really interesting getting to know, the culture and getting to know these kids that you see on a weekly basis and that you form relationships with. It's just really, really cool. So that's why I kind of wanted to make this video, to offer it as an option to someone who is interested and kind of giving you what I've learned through my experience and what the pros and cons are. And it's really up to you to decide if it's something that you want to try. If you fit the requirements, it is something worth giving a shot. I mean, you're getting paid to teach kids English, which comes naturally to you. You don't even have to think about it. And, just have fun for 25 minutes at a time. It's a really cool job. If you are interested in teaching for VIPKID, I will leave a link below, and it will be my referral link. I mean, they don't know I exist. I'm literally only a teacher with them. Everyone gets a referral link And once you're a teacher, you have that option to refer friends and family. If you successfully go through the interview process, I do get some money for referring you. If you would be interested in giving it a go and you'd want to reach out to me for some help during the interview process and the demo process, I did very, very well on my interview and demo. I passed on the first try. I was pretty pleased with my performance, so I think I have tips to share. The VIPKID link will be my specific referral link, and I will leave steps down below on how to add me in as your referral or your referee. Thank you for listening, and I hope everyone who is watching stays safe and healthy. Bye!